Good afternoon. Just a little bit of a background about myself. I'm Vladimer Kobayashi. So, I'm also a PhD student from the University of Amsterdam. And my background is I'm not a psychologist, but I'm coming from a more data-driven background because I work as a data miner. So, my talk would be focusing on improving person job fit through the development of data-driven technology. So this one is still in its infancy, but in infancy development, so it's also a work in progress. So I will present to you some of the input that we have already envisioned for this system to work to achieve its goals. Okay. So these are the contents of my talk. So we'll talk about the motivation, so what is happening in the world of labor demand and supply today, and then some data that might convince you about the usefulness of this application, and the main findings, and what's the truth of the matter. So we will be asking ourselves, and then the power of knowing and taking in control, and then finally to the goal-setting application and beyond. Okay. So what is happening in the world today? I know that you are aware because you're reading your newspaper, but I will just highlight some of the things. So these are the headlines that we can read from our newspapers or online newspapers. So as you can see, there is this problem of we have jobs, and we have job seekers who seek to be employed. But still, these job seekers cannot find or cannot fill these open positions. So I think the question is, why jobs go unfilled even in times of high unemployment? So we try to solve this problem. It's not really to solve, but solve a part of this problem through the lens of learning analytics. Okay, these are some of the data. So 1/2 of the youth believe that their post-secondary studies improve their employment opportunities. So the other half doesn't believe that their studies has actually improved their employment opportunities. And 39% of the employers say skills shortage is a leading reason for entry-level vacancies. So they cannot find the right people with the right skills to fill up the job vacancy. So this is the problem. And then we have also here from Africa, this is survey from Africa, and this is the top reasons why the current youth cannot find jobs. So they say that's the aggregate labor demand, so there is no enough jobs available. Then the second is there's skills mismatch, and then the third one is that labor information is not readily available to the job seekers. So if I were a graduate, so I might experience this problem, and these are the top 4 reasons why I cannot find job. Okay, so this is now the final from a survey. So 70 million youth unemployed, and then we have half youth are not sure that their post-secondary education has improved their chances of finding a job, and almost 40% of employers say lack of skills is the main reason for entry level vacancy. So what is the problem for this? So we identified this problem. So there seems to be a lack of communication between educators and employers. Because according to the data, they have divided it into 3 segments. The successful employers, or those employers who are able to get the talent that they want, they reach out regularly to education providers and youth by giving them skills, by giving them time and money. So this is one cause of the problem. So there is miscommunication. So the educators are not really informed about what the employers need. And then so they cannot give the right training to the students to make them fit to the job market. And then the second one is there is no hard data available to study to study the process of the student transition from education to employment. Although in the educational setting, we have a lot of data that tells us what works and what doesn't work. But In terms of transition from education to employment, there seems to be no enough data to make some conclusive studies that what intervention and what practices might or might not work. So what is the implication of this mismatch? So business and economic losses, social unrest, and individual despair. So we try to approach this problem not after the students are already graduated, but during the time the student is getting the education. So we believe that we can do something in the education setting that will make these students more fit to the job that they wanted. So approach is data-driven analysis and learning analytics. Okay. So what do I need to know? If I am a student and I want to become, let us say, a teacher, so what do I know? What do I need to know to reach my destination? Of course, we have to look at job info. This is our idea. We have to look at job information and then learn by example. So what path did the current teachers took in order to become a teacher? So this will be connected to my goal. And then we have also believed that we have to, so there are three actors, the educators, their employers, and the students themselves. So we focus on the students. So that's why we have this idea of allowing the students to shape their own future, to shape their own, to introduce their own preferences and their own knowledge. But also with the helping hands of employers and educators. So what will be our solution? So we are now in the process of prototyping this application. So we have already defined some software requirement analysis, and we have already defined, identified some useful data sources. So the idea is that we use labor market information and then present it to a goal-setting application where the student can see, okay, what are the current labor market information? But this is not an easy task because we have a lot of labor data, sources of data. So what we do is to aggregate this information to come up with to present it to the students in a more comprehensible manner. So it's like using all the data that's available out there that talks about jobs and present it to students. And then aside from that, we're also going to use the student data. This is the data from the course management systems. It also uses data from the student information system, and it will also use the data from interview before they get into the post-secondary education. And then mix all of this in a goal-setting application, where the students can set goals, not only learning goals, but also career or employment goals. So how does this will work? It's a bit not clear for now because, but I will show you how can this be connected. Okay. So the main feature of the goal setting is it contains a dashboard for labor market information, and dashboard for student activity and performance. And then it also gives you an performance indicator, and importantly, we have the recommendation from the course advisor and from the school authorities. So we define what is a goal is an object or aim of an action. That's what they believe what a goal is. Okay, so we get it from the literature. So we will use the idea of goal setting in order for students to propel his own or to shape his own future or career. So the power of goals, the finding is it directs attention and effort. It energizes because high goals lead to high efforts, and persistence, it prolonged effort and affects action indirectly by arousal. Okay, so there are some existing goals applications that is present right now in the market, but we found these three important elements that is lacking in these goal setting applications. So most of these are not suitable for academic adoption. And then they are not so intelligent because they don't use data in order to improve the application and to give automatic recommendations to students. And then they do not their target is different because they do not integrate labor market information in the application, which is important in our case. So this is unanticipated. So the idea is we want to solve this, especially the third one, the labor market information, using the goal setting, of course, and using analysis from the labor. And you are, from analyzing some vacancy, analyzing some trajectory data, we'll be able to find what skills are needed for each job. So this is the work of HANA for job analysis. And the first one is, it's not our role, it's the role of the government. Okay. So what you don't know won't hurt you, but in our case, what you don't know will compromise your future. So this is the contribution. And then the data sources, we identified a number. For number one, we have data from alumni. We will use also data from alumni. So we are going to trace their education to employment data, and to see there which one are successful and which are not, and which one are happy and which one are not satisfied. And then job information data, and then other sources and student data. So how to measure, assess, and achieve fit? So we will be using at the macro level this so-called beverage curve, which shows you the unemployment rate versus the job vacancy rate. So the relationship must be downwards, but we will see some minor fluctuations. And then for the micro level, for the student, we will be defining what we call, borrowing the idea from learner's model and competency model, wherein we create a model. This is the model that, for example, I want to become a doctor. What is a model for a doctor? So what are the skills needed? What are the education? What are the experience? So we present this model to the student, and then once we define this, we will help the student set goals that will help him reach this model. Okay. Through goal setting. So we have here the target me, and we have also the current, and then using the target me will be defined by the labor market information. Okay, so these are the software requirements for the goal setting. So basic, can set goals, task priorities, ratings, and then dashboards, and then the messaging capability, the role of educators in giving recommendation, and also the mirroring feature, which functions in two ways, like how do I compare with respect to my peers, and how do I compare with respect to the target me, the current situation. Okay, so of course we are going to test. So we envision this experiment, so short to term, medium terms, immediate impact on student performance. And then the long term would be to measure its impact on employment. But this one requires a longitudinal study from the time the student started the education and then until he reached employment. And whether the application is, so this is a bit long term, so I plan to
build your career.
Yeah, build a career and promote this goal setting. Okay. And then we need your help because we are in the process of prototyping software, so we will iterate the software application, and then we need your help as users to tell me what should be there, what should be improved, or how do we improve the user interface for the system. Okay, that's all. Thank you.